Comrades and friends, welcome to the program, Global Weekly News, serial number 137. First, we go to Panama. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio traveled to Panama on 1st February to personally negotiate with Panamanian President Jose Mulino on the demands of Trump government. The main objective of Rubio's visit was to drastically limit the agreements that Panamanian authorities reached with the Chinese authorities in 2017 to improve trade with Chinese companies. Rubio has said that China's influence in Panama is unacceptable, and if this does not change, the U.S. will take the necessary measures to protect its rights. According to Trump, Panama has violated the terms of the treaty that returned the canal to the Central American state of Panama in 1999. Trump made the claim that the canal is being administered by China. This has been flatly denied by Panamanian authorities. After a meeting lasting little over an hour on 2nd February, Panamanian authorities announced that the 2017 agreements with China would not be renewed. In addition, a series of arrangements were reached that social movements agree will jeopardize Panamanian sovereignty. First item, the U.S. will further supervise the Darien, a jungle area through which thousands of migrants from South America and the world pass every month on their journey to the U.S. Second, this is the migrant path, Darien jungle. The U.S. will establish a military airstrip in the Darien jungle to improve its massive deportation project. This will serve as a U.S. military base. Third, Mulino will provide Panamanian intelligence on money laundering to U.S. authorities. Fourth, Mulino promised to reconsider the concession of 2 Panamanian ports to a Hong Kong-based company. 5. Mulino agreed to the creation of a technical commission to evaluate the current status of the Panama. 6. The Panama Canal Authority informed that it would work with the U.S. Navy to optimize the priority transit of its vessels through the Panama Canal. Days before Rubio's visit, students from the state university clashed with the police during a protest against the U.S. Secretary of State's Rubio's trip to Panama. On the day of the visit, several popular and union groups called for a patriotic day to oppose the expansionist intentions of the U.S. and the surrendering attitude of the Mulino government. Slogans such as "This country is not for sale" and "Panama is not for sale" were shouted in the march. Several protesters burnt effigies of Trump and Rubio. Unified National Union of Workers of the Construction and Similar Industries, an organization with more than 40,000 members, is one of the most important actors in the protest. Second, we go to, comrades, a very important item, Cuba's Guantanamo. There, America is holding and having its torture prison. Expansion of Guantanamo base. Following their military victory in the Spanish-American War of 1895 to 1898, the U.S. Army established itself in Guantanamo Bay in Cuban territory as early as 1898. In 1903, the U.S. succeeded in making the Cuban government give up the territory to U.S. in the form of a perpetual lease. A portion of Cuba's sovereign national territory was exchanged for an annual payment. Following the 1959 Cuban Revolution led by Fidel Castro and Che Guevara, however, Cuba demanded the full and immediate return of the territory occupied by the U.S. military, refusing to collect the money that was stipulated in the initial agreement. The occupation of the base violates Article 52 of the 1969 Vienna Convention, which specifies that any treaty between two countries will be cancelled if it is sought to have been signed by force or intimidation. Therefore, the Guantanamo Base Agreement is invalid. The Guantanamo Base is the only military base that US has in a socialist country. In the late 20th century, the base was used to detain Cuban and Haitian migrants seeking to reach the US by boats. Since the beginning of the 21st century, the US has used part of the prison to hold people who allegedly have links to groups such as Al-Qaeda and the Taliban army. Several journalists, lawyers, and human rights organizations have condemned the interrogations, confinement, and torture practiced in Guantanamo Bay. According to the US, since Guantanamo Bay resides in Cuba, the detainees held there, legally speaking, are outside their country. So US constitutional rights do not apply directly to the prisoners, detainees. However, the Supreme Court of US declared that Guantanamo detainees have the right to access US court, since only the US has control over the territory where the base is located. On 29th January, US decided to expand the capacity at the Guantanamo Bay naval base in order to receive 30,000 migrants detainees. In a press conference on 30th January, Trump cited his disgust in the nations of origin to reliably accept the forced return of their migrants as a key factor in the expansion of Guantanamo Bay. Cuba has strongly condemned Trump's decisions since it considers an illegal occupation. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel posted on X saying, in an act of brutality, the new US government announced the imprisonment of thousands of migrants that it is forcibly expelling at the Guantanamo naval base, located in illegally occupied Cuban territory next to the known prisons of torture and illegal detention. The Cuban Foreign Affairs issued a communique that Guantanamo prison is a center of torture and indefinite detention, where people have been held for up to 20 years, never tried or convicted of any crime. Comrades, now we next go to the third item, US-China trade war. In a presidential order issued on 1st February, Trump has accused Canada, Mexico, and China, three of its largest trading partners, of not doing enough to stop the flow of the fentanyl that is drug, and illegal immigrants into the US through their borders, and announced that Trump would impose a 25% tariff on imports from its immediate neighbors, Mexico and Canada, and a 10% additional tariff on Chinese goods. The measures that go into effect on 4th February in case these countries fail to take effective measures to prevent the flow of drugs and immigrants. Canada and Mexico signed last-minute deals with the US on 3rd February, which postponed the implementation of the additional tariffs for one more month. However, the additional tariffs on Chinese goods came into effect on 4th February itself. As promised during his re-election campaign, Donald Trump announced these policies to reduce reliance on imports and to revive domestic production. Joe Biden had limited the trade war by focusing mainly on imposing restrictions on Chinese high-tech sectors. China announced on 4th February that it filed a formal complaint with the WTO dispute settlement mechanism against Trump's decision to impose 10% additional tariffs on Chinese goods. US moves violate World Trade Organization WTO rules. Chinese Foreign Minister had warned the US not to indulge in trade war, as such in trade wars have no winners. China also said it is the toughest country on counter-narcotics. The US needs to view and solve its own fentanyl issue in an objective and rational way, instead of threatening other countries with the arbitrary tariff hikes, Chinese Foreign Minister also said. Responding to the US moves on 4th February, China announced the imposition of a 15% additional tariff on coal and liquefied natural gas imported from the US. The move could be effective from 10th February. It also announced an additional 10% tariff on crude oil, agricultural machineries, and pickup trucks imported from the US. China also announced restrictions on metals exported to the US to be used in its defense industry, such as tungsten, tellurium, bismuth, indium, and molybdenum. These measures are taken to safeguard Chinese security interests. Comrades, now next we go to the fourth item, undermining of global health care by United States. Trump decided to withdraw from the World Health Organization and to exit the Paris Climate Accord. These steps will create long-term public health challenges, especially with the increasingly undeniable links between climate change and health. Trump has appointed individuals with anti-scientific views to key healthcare positions. These harmful decisions not only hinder progress within the US but also pose a serious threat to global health and well-being. The US is the largest single country contributor to the World Health Organization, providing approximately 18% of its funding. It also plays a crucial role in supporting specific health programs such as those targeting tuberculosis and AIDS. While increased contributions from China and other nations could potentially address the funding gap, the real issue lies elsewhere. US decision weakens World Health Organization as a truly global organization, one that relies on the participation and collaboration of all countries to address shared health challenges effectively. In 1946, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention were founded in US. World Health Organization, who was established on 7th April 1948, following the model of the above centers. If the WHO is weakened, it would have a direct impact on US Centers for Disease Control, its ability to address international and US health challenges effectively. The US suffered the highest number of COVID-19 cases and deaths during the pandemic. Largest death due to corona took place in US. Several technologies and diagnostic tools developed in the US were also instrumental in controlling the disease worldwide. When the outbreak began, Donald Trump was president, and his actions, ranging from dismissing the virus by calling it as the Wuhan virus, to downplaying its seriousness by appearing in public without a mask, Joe Biden accelerated the distribution of vaccines. Emerging infectious diseases such as SARS, Ebola, Nipah, and COVID-19 have demonstrated how quickly they can spread worldwide, often in a matter of days. Pandemic-capable disease, after emerging in some corner of the globe, can reach every part of the globe within 72 hours. This stark reality makes it clear that no country, regardless of its resources, can manage these diseases on its own. The only path forward is through collective action, sharing scientific data, technologies, medicines, and vaccines on an international scale. The COVID-19 pandemic came as a reminder for two fundamental principles: universal health care and the concept of one health, one world. A strong public health system is crucial for managing and preventing diseases effectively. United Kingdom's National Health Service played a pivotal role in controlling the COVID-19 outbreak in the United Kingdom. Similarly, during Barack Obama's presidency, the Affordable Care Act extended health insurance coverage to 3 crore Americans who were until then uninsured, offering critical support to vulnerable populations, including the elderly. Unlike the United States, many European nations were able to manage the pandemic more effectively due to their state-mandated social insurance systems. Third goal in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals is to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. In recent years, significant challenges arose due to the rise of zoonotic diseases, that means diseases due to the animals, antimicrobial resistance, and the impacts of climate change. These factors have highlighted the interconnectedness of human, animal, and environmental health, prompting the adoption of One Health, One World. Deforestation disrupted the habitats of animals such as bats, increasing the likelihood of pathogens jumping from animals to humans. Comrades, next we go to see how the arms trade is. Rising arms trade in United States. U.S. arms suppliers recorded a 29% jump in sales in 2024 and constituted a total share of 42% of the world's total arms and weapons trade in 2023. U.S. weapon manufacturers and military contractors registered an unprecedented increase in sale of arms and military services in 2024. This made 2024 one of the most profitable years ever, in large part thanks to wars in Ukraine and Gaza, as well as the military build-up around China. Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and General Dynamics are the top U.S. military contractors. Total revenue from arms sales in 2024 reached a record $31,870 crore. U.S. arms sales to Israel include a nearly $1,900 crore deal to supply F-15s. 41 out of 100 top arms supply companies in the world are U.S. companies. U.S. is always a threat to international peace, mind. Next, comrades, this is one of the arrogant, barbaric statement of Trump that U.S. will take over Gaza. The real estate developer turned President Donald Trump laid out his plans for the Riviera of the Middle East in a joint press conference with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Washington. That means U.S. will take over Gaza and convert Gaza as a beach, as a tourist destination, tourist people's resort. Trump said, "We will own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings." When asked whether he would send U.S. troops into Gaza, Trump responded, "As far as Gaza is concerned, we will do what is necessary. If it is necessary, we will do that. We are going to take over that peace, that we are going to develop it. We will create thousands of jobs." Comrades, the whole of Latin America, except Argentina, something like that, Latin America united against Trump. During the 12th Extraordinary Summit of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America, People's Trade Treaty, in short, ALBA TCP, on 3rd February, member countries met virtually to discuss several issues that have arisen from recent geopolitical developments. This regional group, created by Fidel Castro and Hugo Chavez in 2024, will try to carry out certain tactics and strategies for the onslaught that is U.S. foreign policy. The heads of states agreed to defend the human rights of migrants and to coordinate actions to demand respect for their dignity in the face of mass deportations. It was agreed that recently arrived migrants should be fully integrated into their countries of birth through the implementation of public policies that promote social reintegration. This effort will be funded by a joint investment of $1 crore sponsored by the Alba TCP Bank. Comrades, next we go to Congo, the African country. Rwanda backed M23 offensive, a battle for Congo's plenty rich resources. The war in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo has entered another week as the Rwanda-backed M23 rebel group continues its offensive. Congolese people across North Kivu and especially in the now M23 controlled capital Goma face an increasingly dire humanitarian situation in what is a broader struggle over resources, power and geopolitical influence. Including several UN peacekeepers, at least 700 people died in a week. Over 7 lakh people have also been displaced. On 23rd January, Major General Peter Sirimbwami, the military governor of North Kivu, was assassinated while visiting the front line to assess the security situation there. In response, Congo government has cut off diplomatic ties with Rwanda, accusing it of backing the M23 rebels. The humanitarian crisis continues to deteriorate, with Goma's population deprived of electricity and drinking water, leaving thousands and thousands of families in desperate conditions. The region around Goma is rich in coltan, gold, cassiterite and other valuable resources that have long been a target for illicit exploitation. In 2022 alone, copper and cobalt exports totaled $2,500 crore, over a third of the country's GDP. Yet, 75% of the population of Congo lives on less than $2.15 income a day. Rwanda and other neighboring countries have long benefited from smuggling these resources, making conflict a lucrative enterprise. 2.1 crore Congo people require humanitarian aid. General Secretary of the Communist Party Marxist Kenya has criticized Rwanda for its imperialist-backed war of aggression against Congo. Lastly, comrades, we are going to see an important fantasy of US, Washington's fantasy of a war against China. The weakness of US power was clear when a small Chinese startup released the DeepSeek machine learning program. DeepSeek. The US stock market, Nasdaq, shuddered with technology stocks collapsing. During the post-COVID-19 inflation, foreign investors began to slow down their purchase of US debt bonds. Then, after the US seized $60,000 crore in Russia's foreign exchange assets in 2022, many central banks moved their own holdings away from the long-arm jurisdiction of the US. US Treasury bills got weakened. In 2024, foreign investors put over $1 lakh crore in technology stocks into US stock markets. With the DeepSeek downturn, will these investors move away? That's $1 billion question. US think tanks are of the opinion China has grown technologically superior to US. US can't overcome China. Instead, US shall go into a war with China. Such madness is beyond imagination. Thank you, comrades. Lal Salam. See you next week.